Florida State, coming off the season from hell, has Goliath walking into Doak Campbell Stadium in week 1. If there was any team that you didn't want to play if you was Mike Norvell with your job on the line this year to start this new season, it's the Alabama mother effing Crimson Tide. Alabama versus FSU is your prototypical David versus Goliath matchup. Bama wants to smash ants with a sledgehammer this year and make it to the college football playoffs, coming off a disappointing season, and they're all right. Meanwhile, Florida State, you just want to be a competitive team above all else. And the biggest question for Florida State going into this Alabama opener is, how many stones do you have available to throw at Goliath? Thomas Castellanos, he is the Dollar General version of Kyler Murray. He doesn't have the same arm strength or the same athleticism that Kyler Murray had, but he's not too far off. And if he is as good as what Mike Norvell has made him out to be during this offseason, he can give Alabama's defense a lot of problems, because last year, Alabama's defense struggled against mobile quarterbacks. Lenore Sellers had success against them. Jackson Arnold, the damage that he did on the ground against the Tide was a large reason why Oklahoma pulled off that upset. Alabama, as stacked as what they are on the defense side of football this year, they have a top 5 defense walking into the 2025 college football season. If Thomas Castellanos can get going early with his mobility, it can open things up for the rest of Florida State's offense. Kalen DeBoer, as good as a coach as what he is, he has had tendencies to play down to competition. Last year, when Alabama lost to Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia couldn't be stopped, that was a prime example of Alabama playing down to their competition. And even when he was at Washington, he had a few games that Washington was favored to dominate in, and they won by a pretty thin margin. If Florida State comes out and they can click early, they got the chemistry down with their new patchwork offensive line, and they can take advantage of that home field that they have where you hear that, oh, bro. That damn war chant that Florida State has is so damn annoying. But once you really get that thing going and you keep hearing that, oh, and Florida State's having success, it can rattle any team that is on the road in Doak Campbell Stadium. However, though, I don't see Florida State having enough stones or big enough stones to knock off the Goliath that is Alabama. Look, Alabama is a 12.5-point favorite going into this game. Not only are they going to cover that, but they're going to smash Florida State, the smithereens. They have the best secondary in college football. Going up against Thomas Castellanos, if you take away his ability to run and he has to beat you from within the pocket, Alabama's defense is going to feast on him. He's 5'9". So not only is he incredibly undersized, when you have a defensive front as fast and athletic as what Alabama does, he's going to have a hard time seeing open receivers downfield. A lot of his throws are going to come outside of the numbers. He's not going to be able to consistently hit those quick strikes in the middle of the field. And in Florida State, a lot of their projected starters on their offensive line are guys that they got out of the transfer portal, albeit a good amount of these offensive linemen have started a pretty good amount of games at their previous stops, but not a bunch of these guys have played a team to the level of talent that Alabama's going to be walking in with. And normally, when you have a team that doesn't have a lot of experience playing with each other, it normally takes a few games for them to start gelling. Meanwhile, you have an Alabama defensive front that has a lot of experience, a lot of guys returning from last year's team. They should be able to get the upper hand on that FSU transfer portal dependent offensive line. Florida State is also going to be starting 3 new cornerbacks this season because they lost a good amount of talent at that position to the NFL. they're not going to be able to guard any of Alabama's wide receivers. You got Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, who you got from Miami out of the portal, and then you got that boy Ryan Williams. Now with him actually having a quarterback that can consistently throw the football with accuracy, Ryan Williams possibly could win the Heisman Trophy this year. And in this game, he probably could end up going off for 175 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns, and average around 16, 17 yards per catch. FSU doesn't have a cornerback in that locker room that can guard Ryan Williams with their hands tied behind their backs. And FSU just has less chemistry going into this game than what Alabama does. So essentially, with Florida State, you need to play your best football early during this season in this game. You basically have to play this game like you already are in mid-season form. Your margin of error is incredibly small as compared to Alabama. Alabama can afford a turnover or two. You can't. You got to play perfect, fundamentally sound football. Your coaching staff hires have to work out, which I believe they will. Tony White did a really phenomenal job at Nebraska. Gus Malzahn, any running back or dual threat quarterback that you plug into his system automatically turns into gold. But it's tough sledding when you have Alabama walking into your trap in week 1. And Alabama's going to take over Florida State's trap this year. My score prediction for this game is Alabama 42, Florida State 20. And they only get the 20 when Alabama puts the backups in. I'm not trying to hate on Florida State. I said what needed to happen at the start of this segment for you to win this game. But ultimately, you're walking into an onslaught. You're going to have a motivated Alabama team, and you're going to have an offense that has way more consistent quarterback play than what they did last year. If they had Jalen Milroe at quarterback, then this probably could be a little bit of a dogfight for the first 3 quarters. But with Ty Simpson, it's fair to assume that he'll be better than what Jalen Milroe is, only because with how bad Jalen Milroe played at times, you would have thought that Ty Simpson should have gotten some opportunities. In that bowl loss against Michigan, there was a lot of noise about how Ty Simpson should have went in that game to see what he had. But Kalen DeBoer stayed loyal to Jalen Milroe because he didn't want to lose the locker room. Now, Kalen DeBoer has the kind of guys that he wants to run the system that had him a bunch of success when he was at the University of Washington. You also have his tag team partner reuniting with him, that being Ryan Grubb. So Alabama, they're going to walk all over Florida State and Doak Campbell. I'm hoping that I'm wrong and this is a competitive game, but it's going to be tough for Florida State coming out on top in this game or even keeping this thing competitive until the last 15.